are abuses of power. With this letter, I formally request that the Torrance County Commission allow public comment. Thank you for having notified me earlier of that. With this letter, they should acknowledge their flagrant violations of the public trust in regards to the governor's demand for an emergency meeting and rectify their actions in business from now on. With this letter, we are also asking for the Attorney General's office to proceed with actions in this matter as soon as possible, especially if this board proceeds with this recommendation. We ask that the AG's office request as further proof of the violations aside from the posted video of March 15, copies of the sign-in register, minutes of the meeting, and recorded votes of said Commissioner Frost and Candelaria at the Torrance County Republican Party. We submit our strong objections to this entire matter with this letter to ensure the process and minimal liability for the citizens of Torrance County that were shut out of this important process. This deliberate attempt to cut one half of the county's citizenry from participating in their own governance should not be rewarded with denial or pretense of ignorance of the law. In our view, the fact that our Governor Martinez is herself an attorney and a former prosecutor, familiar with the laws of New Mexico, makes this doubly outrageous. Pretense of ignorance or feigned emergency is not acceptable. Sincerely yours, Margarita Mercure Hibbs, Chair of the Torrance County Democratic Party. And that's really all I have to say. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr.
I'd like to speak.
Just a minute, Mr. Godey, you will speak just a minute only. Mr. Wallen, clearly we need a legal opinion on this situation.
On what situation?
On the situation Mrs. Hibbs described.
I'm not sure what you're asking.
On having quorum, about our commissioners having quorum before the meeting, participating in another meeting and having quorum and voting on the issue before the commission meeting.
You know, I'm more than happy to go into closed session and give legal advice to the commission as a whole. I'm not going to give legal advice in an open meeting which violates attorney-client privilege.
It is not on the agenda, though. Can we still go? We can go to the closed session, and how can we proceed this meeting without your legal opinion? If we open the county to lawsuits from people who applied for this job and others.
You know, that's a matter that we would need to discuss in closed session, in executive session. So, you know, generally speaking, if a commissioner feels that their vote is somehow unduly influenced by some outside information, then they can decide for themselves whether or not to recuse themselves. And that's up to the commissioners. Whether or not someone decides to bring a legal action as a result of that is up to those individuals. I don't have a crystal ball.
Dennis, is your microphone on?
Well, there was at one time. Someone turned it off. It's on now. I don't think you need a legal opinion on it. The individual counselor or commissioners may want to ask for a legal opinion. I don't think the commission as a whole. I think it's in the discretion of the individual commissioner whether or not he or she thinks that they should excuse themselves from the vote.
Mr. Wallen, but I see your job in preventing lawsuits, and we don't want the county sued, so we need your legal opinion.
Yes, ma'am, I understand what you're saying.
Okay, can we please proceed? Mr. Goody, you were next.
Little background.
State your name, please.
Michael Goody, Torrance, Tahiki. Little background on the choice of the last for Stephen Easley and the advantages of having it done legally is that it gave a chance for, I believe, Javier Sanchez to talk and Vicky Pereira. It gave a chance to actually, fortunately, introduce the new representative to replace Stephen Easley. And for a lot of people in Torrance County, I know she's a Republican and I'm a Democrat, but I also know for Tahiki at least, a lot of people were somewhat pleased with Vicky Pereira, and it was a chance to be introduced to her. And I was, while I think Susanna should have picked a Democrat, I was fairly comfortable with Vicky after meeting her here and seeing her speak. She seemed to be pretty in touch, pretty articulate, and pretty capable. And for a lot of people in Torrance County, it worked out that way. By having the meeting on Sunday, basically truncated any opportunity for that. I think as an Open Meetings Act, from an ethical point of view, it was corrupt. I know the county was simply going by either party politics or going by what they were told to do. Other counties, one reason it got flagged, some counties didn't. They flagged it and said, hey, wait a minute, this hasn't been done before. You can't suddenly create an emergency when other situations like this have come up, and it's not an emergency. So it is actually, if you look at it from the legal point of view of the carrying out of the law, it would not follow because the president doesn't exist. It is simply something that somebody manufactured. It's fiction. They manufactured it out of their head, and it's not totally Torrance County's fault, but I think it was important to avoid that meeting. In terms of this meeting, yes, I think that still in the Easley meeting there was plenty of opportunity. They went through the process. They announced it out sent out information, announced out, well, we're looking for somebody to represent in the place of Phil Griego, and then named applications were given in. I think the only other thing you can do if you want to partially correct this thing is basically take a break, and if somebody wants to apply for the job that's in the audience, to have them apply, because you really haven't given a chance to do that. The Democratic meeting, basically, I emailed people, or I Facebook people, and I think I emailed a couple of people, and I thought I was really being pushy by saying, hey, we got to finish this meeting to select all these people for the Democratic chairs, and et cetera. But we got to push it forward. We got to be really on task, because we got to come over here. And I thought I would get knocked by the Democratic Party, but I didn't. But the point is that basically the whole thing was a political charade to use time against certain people. And as the president, usually in the legal advice, when you have president, there has to be a precedent for it, an example. And I don't think that there was an example of that. So the whole thing is fiction, it's erroneous, and again, I would call for actually a break in this meeting, and if anybody wants to apply in the audience, I see no reason why they can't apply. Democrat, Republican, Independent, Libertarian, whatever. Thank you.
Thank you.
Would you like for me to read what the Open Meetings Act says about an emergency meeting? Because it's been mischaracterized.
Yes, sir.
here.
Yes, of course.
Let me pull it up for you. I've actually got it written down, but just so you know that I'm reading from the act. Because I think, obviously, lawyers on both sides have disagreed with what constitutes an emergency, and there really is no precedent in New Mexico as with a court deciding this. Now, there is a lawsuit that has been filed as of yesterday. It didn't name the counties, but it named the governor and some of the administrative folks. So this matter is now pending in the First Judicial District. Well, let me read to you the provision out of the Open Meetings Act that talks about emergencies very quickly here. And it's 1015-1-F. So, a public body, so I'm reading about midway through F. A public body that ordinarily meets more frequently than once a week shall post a draft agenda 72 hours prior to the meeting and a final agenda at least 36 hours prior to the meeting, except for emergency matters. A public body shall take action only on items appearing on the agenda. For purposes of this subsection, emergency refers to unforeseen circumstances that, if not addressed immediately by the public body, will likely result in injury or damage to persons or property or substantial financial loss to the public body. That's what is an emergency. It constitutes an emergency meeting. Now, granted, there's some degree of ambiguity in there, and it's subject to interpretation, and that's what lawyers and eventually courts do on a daily basis. But the question in this case, as it was presented to me, was would Torrance County, by not having a senator at the legislature in the last week, potentially lose or suffer a substantial financial loss? It was my understanding that there were capital outlay projects pending before, and I believe that I've confirmed that that's the case. That, in my opinion, when I addressed this, constituted a likely substantial financial loss. So the Democratic Party, of which I'm a member, understands that's the way I interpreted this. There are many attorneys who interpret it the same way. There are many that interpret it a different way. But I feel that the county was on solid legal ground, and I think we would have prevailed. The problem is, if you get a matter in court, you're going to have it tied up for months. And it's going to be decided by the First Judicial District. Most likely, that'll be appealed to the Court of Appeals, and most likely it'll end up at the Supreme Court. If this ends up in court, frankly, we may not have a senator representing Torrance County in next year's legislative session. That's where we're at.
Did we have a deadline for submission of letters of interest?
That's not my gamut.
Is anybody has an answer to that? Please.
Buenas tardes todos, yo soy Daniel Antonio Herrera y yo soy el presidente de Mazantes de Manzano. For those of you who don't know the official language of New Mexico, which is Spanish, learn. We're a bilingual state. The answer is you should have allowed the Democratic Party, as you allowed the Republican Party, the chance to submit some names. That's where the suit's going to come into effect unless we start the whole process over again. Thank you. That's your answer.
Thank you, sir.
Brent Sanchez, Tajica. I'm embarrassed to see what's going on in this county with the government. It's self-evident that it's run like a banana republic, and there's an old saying, looks like a duck, walks like a duck, it is a duck. And I'm proud to be of Tajica and Torrance County, but I'm not proud of the government, the way it's run. Thank you.
Sir, you were next.
And I'm Robert Chavez from Willard, the village of Willard. I'm also the mayor of the village of Willard. I just have some suggestions that, if possible, the commission can do it. If you have some recommendations for Democrats, it would be nice to do it. But all the Democrats here that are present here and out there need to understand that when the nomination comes up and the governor's going to do it, she's going to appoint a Republican. Let's understand that. There ain't no question about that. I can bet 10 to 1. And you know what? You have selected a gentleman that I know his background when he was mayor of Estancia. Ted Varela, I don't know if he's even in here. And, you know, he had very close ties with Senator Phil Griego because I was there. And he got some things down here for the town of Estancia. And I asked for a CBDG grant for the village of Willard because I need a backup well. Well, this is going to really cut me off now to trying to get that grant for the village of Willard. And I understand, I'm a Democrat, I've been a Democrat all my life, but the thing is that if there's some Democrats that would like to get their names into the pot, it'd be fine, no problem. But we got to understand that the governor is going to do what she wishes to do, and mark my word, if we are fighting ourselves here in Torrance County, Democrats and Republicans, we're not enough to even get Mr. Varela in there, and that's the man probably that we need here. Because he can, I know that man, I know what he can do for us. If somebody else comes from another county, hey, we're going to be in big trouble. Mark my word, I know what I'm talking about. I've been in politics all my life. And I'm not young now anymore. But I'll tell you what, do it the right way, and let's break that, break down the honesty that's going on between Democrats and Republicans. That ain't going to do us no good. If Ted Varela, his name is in the pot already, you mark my word, we have a better chance of getting Ted Varela than a Democrat or other Republican from another county. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chavez. Ms. Ronca.
I just want to make a couple of points. Oh, Ann, I'd like to make a couple of points to basically reiterate what Margarita Hibbs has said. I think the very fact that we're doing this meeting again on a Wednesday night after the one on Sunday is an admission of guilt that somebody recognizes the unlawfulness of the Sunday meeting. I also think that Julia DeCharm's statement during the roll call that why were we rushing through with this in such a hurried fashion indicates that she wasn't part of what I see as Republican collusion in trying to bully the people of this county into something that we didn't have a say in. Mr. Frost admits that the Republicans had a meeting on Sunday where they put forth the name of Ted Varela. The Democrats weren't even notified that this meeting was going to happen, or we were not given the chance to put forth a candidate for nomination of our own. We would have appreciated being notified and doing such, and we can't do such now because our bylaws require that we give public notice before we have a meeting, and I'm wondering if the Republicans do too. Or was there a Republican Party meeting on Sunday, illegal one also? Mr. Candelaria and Mr. Frost, I think, have made a mockery out of democracy. I think they're being bullies, just the way Susana Martinez is being a Republican bully. I think she was during the election with her lies in her ads. I think you're being dictatorial tyrants. I don't think you're being fair to democracy. I think you're making a complete mockery out of common decency. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Archuleta, you already spoke. Okay, it was an nomination resignation. Okay, please. Everyone will be heard. Please don't worry.
Phil Archuleta again, and on behalf of the Torrance County Republican Party, I want you all to know that I'm not only the second vice chair of Torrance County Republican Party, I'm also the second vice chair of the state party. And I've been in touch with Debbie Mesas, the chairman of the state party, advising her as to what's been going on over here. And she tells me that we had all the legal right to have our meeting on Sunday. We did not tell the commission when they should have their meeting. They could have their meeting anytime they wanted to, but our obligation to be able to come up with the right name from the Republican Party for Torrance County to be represented by the Republican Party, and if the Democrats wanted to submit a name, it was perfectly well with us for them to do that. But we didn't tell the commission to have the meeting at 4 o'clock on Sunday. We just had our meeting, and our bylaws in our party says that we can have a mass meeting. And so you can check our bylaws and check to see if they're all at the Secretary of State's office. And so our meeting was totally legal to have on Sunday the way we had it. And we were very, very proud to nominate Ted Varela to represent District 39, if that's what the commission wishes. We're not telling the commission to send Ted Varela. The Democrats, if they want to, they can bring their own name up and send us another name, and it's up to the commission to do what the commission wants to do. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Hewitt?